Trust me. It'll be at least an hour. All right. Okay, now go up, down. Okay.
We should all be set for Hina Matov. I'm going to just check with James and see where his time is. We're good to go in a minute.
Only when Kathy tells us to do it.
That's great, but I mean...
Yes, I'll give you a 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
1, 2. Right, 1, 2, 3. What?
Yeah. It's the last full bit.
I was doing the intro.
F over A, C squared.
Well, you don't play the intro.
You don't play the
Actually, I was told I do play the guitar.
You don't play
You
the
know what? I think you play it up a half step.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. While we wait for our rabbis and the beginning of our service, please join us as we sing together. Hine ma tovu manayim shavahim nam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shavahim nam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shavahim nam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim שברחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבטחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שברחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שברחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שברחים גם יחד, שבטחים גם יחד, שברחים גם יחד. And please sing with us as we join together in Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi HaSharet, Malachi Elyon, Shalom, Shalom. Ni Melech, Malachi Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shalom, Shalom. Bochem l'Shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Shalom, Shalom. Ni Melech, Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sing with us, please. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shalom, Shalom. Peace be upon you, angels divine. Shabbat Shalom, u'mivarach. Barachoni l'shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Shalom, Shalom. Mi melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh, Baruch Hu, Shalom, Shalom. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי העליון, שלום, שלום. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים? הקדוש ברוך הוא, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ברוך הוא, ברוך הוא, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שלום, שלום. הקדוש ברוך הוא, ברוך הוא, ברוך הוא, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שלום, 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 שלום. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. You know, I am enjoying this magnificent music, and we start with Hinei Matov U'Mana Im Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, and I wish we were Shevet Achim and Achayot Gam Yachad. I wish we were truly sitting here together, and we are looking forward to sitting together safely soon as the conditions allow. But I want to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and especially on this Shabbat. In late January of 1942, 80 years ago, a 5-year-old girl was in hiding in Brussels, in Belgium, with her parents and her maternal grandparents. In Brussels, in Nazi-occupied Belgium. That 5-year-old girl was my mother. On the 20th of January, the Wannsee Conference took place outside Berlin in Germany. The 20th of January, 1942. My mother's father had suffered medical difficulties before that and was treated by a non-Jewish doctor who alerted the family within weeks that Nazi policy had changed, that people were being picked up and disappearing and being sent away, picked up from their homes, picked up from places of hiding, picked up even from hospitals. And the family within weeks decided to flee and moved south to a village between Brussels and the French border. The Wannsee Conference was supposed to take place in early December of 1941. But on the 7th of December 1941, Pearl Harbor occurred and America entered into war against Japan and Germany. And within days, on the 12th of December 1941, with Nazi troops almost on the gates of Moscow, the Red Army launched a counteroffensive against Nazi troops. And the army, the Nazi army, very quickly realized that the Soviet Union would not fall quite as easily as they might have hoped it would. Hitler, of course, might have said, well, let's forget about the Jews and really concentrate on the war effort. But Hitler decided to exterminate the Jews, and the Wannsee Conference was then postponed to the 20th of January. On the 27th of January 1944, Auschwitz was liberated by the Red Army, Auschwitz, west of Krakow, in Poland. It was between January of 1942 and January of 1944 that the overwhelming majority of those Jews who were killed, who were assassinated during the Holocaust, were killed, were exterminated. Every Shabbat that I spend with you here in this sanctuary and in the chapel, when we light the candles, I think about my being here and how fortunate I am to be here. And today, especially, today is a Shabbat of commemoration. It is a Shabbat of reflection, and it is a Shabbat of gratitude for the goodness of so many who rescued, who hid, and who saved. A blessing that our parents, our grandparents, some of them survived, and that we can experience love, we can experience connection, and we can pursue our dreams. And so, let us light the Shabbat candles. Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. We turn to page 20 for the Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela b'nei Shabbat nekabela shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad yishmi'anu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo Ateret ba'ala gam בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמונה עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת חלה בני שבת נקבלה בני שבת נקבלה Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, unripened fruits of fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my days be as the ones before, lest routine set my ways. Lamdeni Elohai, barech v'yitpalel, lamed et siftotai, bracha v'shir halel. Lamdeni Elohai, barech v'yitpalel, lamed et siftotai, bracha v'shir halel.
Please rise for the bow. On page 33, Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Adonai Echad.
Please be seated and join us for the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. On page 39 at the bottom of the page, in a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory, may earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice, as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Who is like you? No one, no one. Who is like you, O God? Who is like you? No one, no
On page 43, please join me. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch ata Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'chamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha.
Please turn with us to page 46 and please rise for the Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadadai-dai-dai, 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imateinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, El Hayom Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחייך כל אתה, רב להושיע, משיבה רוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים וחסד, מחייך כל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחייך הכל.
You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el, HaKadosh. You may be seated.
Ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, be'emunah shalema, be'viyat HaMashiach, ve'af al pi she'yitmameach, im kol zeh ani ma'amin, im kol zeh achake lo b'chol yom she'yavo. Ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin.
On page 61, please join me. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Shalom Rav al Israel עמך תשים לעולם. Shalom Rav al Israel עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך הדור לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך הדור לכל השלום. שלום רב שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים
We pray silently.
שלא ייגמר לעולם החול והים ראשון של המים ברק השמיים תפילת האדם החול והים רשרור של המים ברק השמיים תפילת האדם. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. החול והים רשרוש של המים ברק השמיים תפילת האדם.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. I hope everybody is staying warm and safe. I want to echo Rabbi Cohn's sentiments when he said that we miss you and wish that you were here with us. As I look out over this empty sanctuary, I see some of you in my mind's eye, especially those of you who sit in your accustomed chair, and many of you do. So as I look out here, I see so-and-so and so-and-so, and over here, some of you as well. That's second best, to be sure, and I hope that first best will emerge soon. I want to begin my words this evening by citing a very famous midrash. When the time came for God to make the first human being, the ministering angels gathered themselves into competing councils. One group said, "Don't create human beings," and the other said, "Yes, create them." The angels representing loving kindness said, "Create them, for they will do acts of love." But the angels of truth said, "Do not create them, for they will be full of lies." The representatives of righteousness said, create them, for they will establish justice. While the representatives of truth said, do not create them, for they will be in constant strife and trouble. So what did the Holy One at this moment do? Well, he seized truth by the neck and hurled it to the earth. And before truth could recover, God created human beings. Yes, we human beings are complex creatures, capable of the highest forms of goodness, but also capable of the lowest forms of depravity. No wonder that God's advisors had different views about the advisability of creating human beings. And moreover, let us note that even though the prophet Jeremiah will, long after creation, come to say, Adonai Elohim emet, God is the God of truth, in order to create human beings, God had to thrust truth to the ground, had to ignore what he knew would be the harsh truth about us human beings. And so we human beings have a twofold nature. We can be good and we can be bad, really bad. And the sad and sorry truth about human beings, which God had to set aside, to ignore in order to create us, this sorry truth is everywhere in evidence. Just look at aspects of our current malaise. Vaccination skeptics and vaccination deniers who not only put themselves in jeopardy, but put others with whom they come in contact in jeopardy too, and create massive backup in our hospitals. We witness a huge uptick in violence, and especially in gun violence. We see harsh personal attacks corrupting our politics and our media, unraveling, if not destroying, the delicate threads of our social fabric. In fact, we everywhere see expressions of anger, of vengeance, of hatred, jealousy, cruelty, selfishness, aggressiveness, all forms of violence and barbarism. And of course, appallingly and increasingly frequent outbursts of anti-Semitism, both verbal and physical, which continue to infect societies around the world, and which are based on falsehoods and illusions of millennial duration. Illusions like the Colleyville hostage taker, who wanted Rabbi Angela Buchdahl to push the government for the terrorist release, the old canard of Jewish power, an illusion, which among many others, that unfortunately will never die. And here is a sobering comment by British philosopher John Gray about falsehoods and illusions, and I quote, "You cannot dispel illusion simply by demonstrating that it is an illusion. The human mind is programmed for survival, not for truth." The truth is that so much of humanity act on our hot and destructive passions, and we can easily become discouraged when we ask, will a good generation rise? When will humanity vindicate the confidence that those other angels who argued from the start that God should create human beings, that we will create acts of love and of justice? Indeed, what confidence do we have that we can blunt, if not eliminate, the ineradicable stains on human nature, to be able to encourage the better parts of what we are? And here, I believe, is where our Torah portion for this week comes in. Parshat Mishpatim, the portion about and with laws. Chapters 21 through 24 of Exodus, the so-called covenant code. It's really not a code insofar as it's not comprehensive. Let's call it a collection of laws. And the first in time of the Torah's 3 law collections. And I want to ask, when we begin to look at these laws, the laws in Exodus chapter 21 through 24, the chapters immediately after the 10 Commandments, and I want to ask, what is the function or the functions of law? Yale professor Christine Hayes has written a very wonderful, actually a dense book with the title, What's Divine About Divine Law? And in it she claims plausibly that law has at least 2 functions: to address us as rational creatures with virtues to be cultivated, and to address us as defective creatures with impulses that must be constrained. That is, law does both the task of educating, to engage in character formation, what the Germans call Bildung, and to control our troublesome impulses. That is, law suggests that we can become better, but law also recognizes that it cannot be naive about the human capacity for evil. So I want to give a couple examples of both components and impulses behind and in the function of law. First of all, some examples that presuppose and then seek to neutralize problematic human passions by threatening some kind of penalty or punishment. First, on our indifference to the danger we can cause to one another. Here it is, chapter 21, verse 33. When a person opens a pit or digs a pit and does not cover it, indifference, and an ox or an ass falls into it, the one responsible for the pit must make restitution. Or our urge to take what doesn't belong to us. Chapter 21, verse 37. When a person steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, he shall pay 5 oxen for the ox and 4 sheep for the sheep. Or on our temptation to gossip, to talk about others when they are not in our presence. You shall not carry false rumors. You shall not side with the mighty or the multitude to do wrong. Or our proclivity to engage in acts of violence. When a person schemes against another and kills him treacherously, he shall be put to death. And now to the law's other function, examples of which we find in this week's Torah portion as well. The function that is in an attempt to educate our sensibilities, to cultivate good character, empathy for the other. Chapter 22, verse 20. You shall not wrong a stranger or oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Or on the issue of cultivating responsibility. You shall not ill-treat any widow or orphan. If you do mistreat them, I will heed their outcry as soon as they cry out to me, and my anger shall blaze forth, and I will put you to the sword. Notice that these 2 are actions which our portion encourages us to cultivate. But we move further now to not only actions, but a sensibility, a sense, an emotion that ought to animate the action. That is, that action at its best is not merely a mechanical way of doing a deed. It ought to be animated by a thought, by an emotion, by a sensibility. What about regard for the well-being of those who have come to depend upon us? And again here, note the feelings to which the author calls us. If you take your neighbor's garment in pledge, you must return it to him before the sun sets. There's the action. But it goes on to say, it is his only clothing, the sole covering for his skin. In what shall he sleep? Therefore, if he cries out to me, I will pay heed, for I, God, am compassionate. Or even further, not only an act, not only a feeling, an emotion, a motivation behind the act, but now acts that most of us cannot find our way to engage in. Here we might make the distinction between din, law, and lifnei meshurat hadin. Not only the law, but let's look beneath the letter of the law to its impulse, to its meaning, to its further elaboration, to its foundation. Overcoming the temptation to do the wrong thing, even to one's enemy. When you encounter your enemy's ox or ass wandering, you must take it back to him, your enemy. But deeper, when you see the ass of your enemy lying under its burden, and you would refrain from raising it, if I were to have written this, I would have said, when you see the ass of your enemy lying under its burden, and you would naturally, as we expect, refrain from raising it, the author doesn't go on to say, here's a suggestion for you. No, the author says you must. You must nevertheless, even though your natural impulse is not to do it, you must raise that ass, not only raise it, but raise it with your enemy. In a sense, to collaborate with your enemy, to make your enemy, if only for a brief minute, a part of your own society, of your own concern. I want to read this again. When you see the ass of your enemy lying under its burden and would refrain from raising it, you must nevertheless raise it with him. In other words, I hope that these examples have illustrated the claim that in our Torah portion, both kinds of law are adumbrated, are given examples. Our Torah portion accepts our recalcitrant nature, and it also refuses to accept our recalcitrant nature. And so this portion knows, the author knows, that on the one hand it cannot change us, and therefore it demands compliance through the threat of punishment. But at the same time, these laws refuse to accede to the lowest estimation of who we are, and therefore it demands that we strive to improve our natures and begin to go down the path of character development and toward righteousness. Now, of course, Franz Kafka was right when at the end of his great novel, The Heart of Darkness, wrote the following. Only Kafka could have written this. Reality is the darkness, a howling nightmare, the insane desires of the primeval human soul. civilization, morality, and restraint are fragile constructs. I'm going to read that again. Reality is the darkness, a howling nightmare, the insane desires of the primeval human soul. Civilization, morality, and restraint are fragile constructs. But Kafka was also wrong, or at least our Torah believes that we can become something else. We can become something more. We, with the help of our tradition's wisdom, can perform a kind of magic on our disturbing natures and thereby become something greater. I especially like what two researchers at MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, write about what they call moral alchemy. Now, you remember what alchemy was in the Middle Ages, the attempt to turn the base metals into gold through a kind of magic. And here is their example of the possibility of our performing moral alchemy. When we care for another person in an altruistic way, we extend our own needs to include their needs. This is an instance of a kind of moral alchemy by which we, through Torah wisdom, can turn the base metals of who we are, problematically, into a golden glow of virtue that, without denying ourselves, can reach beyond ourselves to others in sympathetic understanding and solidarity, and with a kind of civic friendship. And so perhaps to bring to realization the psalmist's confidence that indeed we have been made little less than divine, crowned with glory and majesty. Amen. We continue now, as we always do at this point in our service, to think about those members of our families, circle of friends, who are ailing at this moment. We offer prayers for their return to full health. I'm going to name those who themselves or others have given to us to read for our Mishaberach moment. And then I'm going to pause so that you can, in your own hearts or out loud, mention those about whom you are thinking. We think on this occasion especially of Jackie Acho, of Bruce Bressler, John Case, Amelia Hegarty, Maddie Jefferson, Byron Krantz, Jasmine Long, Richard Moore, Monica Robbins, Bob Shippey, Susie Strom, Tricia Stutton, Sheila Weinstock, Tiffany White. Let us turn now to page 253 and sing together the Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. Mishaberach Imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mishaberach hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as
Those of us who have prayer books, I invite you to turn to page 282 and invite you to rise for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומורדים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, and on that day God shall be one. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, and God's name shall be one. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, and on that day God shall be one. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, and God's name shall be one. And God's name shall be one.
You may be seated.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ונם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה מבהיקים בחשכת הליל, הם שמרים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. הם שמרים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך.
At this time in our service, we think of those who are no longer with us and whose memories remain in our hearts. We remember those who were laid to rest this week. Sue Gold, Carol May Cronick, Norman H. Siegel. We also hold fondly in our hearts those who were laid to rest in the last 30 days. Rita Frankel, Roz Lubell, Lois Marcus, David Stewart, Dr. Barbara Kaufman, Dr. Stuart Klassman, William J. Stern, Florine Talisman, Janet Chernin, and Ted Silverberg. And at this time, we also think of those whose yahrzeit fall at this time. Simon Adelson, Leo M. Asherman, Dr. Alex V. Bartow, Jean R. Behrens, Ann Bialis, Henry Bialis, Leon F. Bielowski, Suzanne Wolof Blaugrund, Marilyn Kaplane, H. Shane Karen, Katie Fisher Cohen, Alice Rosenwas Cohn, Harry J. Dworkin, Emma V. Field, Wanda L. Franklin, Sydney R. Gladstone, Max Gold, Abraham Goldberg, Beulah Goldberg, Gertrude Goldberg, Florence Lieber Goodman, Virginia Gottesman, Dr. Joseph R. Gould, Louis Robert Gray, Oscar J. Green, Ray S. Gross, Seymour Gross, Jack Grossman, Mary B. Grossman, Marcus Haber, Lee Pat Hartzmark, Ava Hodis, Albert Lefty Hodis, Robert R. Horowitz, Harry Horvitz, Harry Richard Horvitz, Jack Insel, Mark Jaskolik, Nora Campbell Jordan, Patrick Joseph Jordan, Edwin M. Joseph, Ethel Prentke Cohane, Leo Cole, Minnie Korak Kux, Anna Lader, Otto Lehman, Clara Lerner, Ray C. Levi, Ida Marks, Barbara S. Bobby Mizell, Stanley A. Mizell, Sarah Sternmichael, Ann Miller, Mildred G. Miller, Erwin A. Newman, Lanky Offenberg, Jeff Randall, Sam Rosenthal, Joseph Rothschild, Eleanor Sachs, Elmer M. Schmith, Morris Schwartz, Lieb Sherman, Saul Siegel, Teresa Silverback, Edward Silverberg, Henry E. Simon, Teresa R. Steiner, Shirley R. Sugarman, Francis Tolchinsky, Bud Unger, William R. Weidenthal, Charles J. Weil, Alex Weingarten, Esther Weingarten, Jeannie Weingart, Samuel Weitz, Paul Wildow, Rosalind H. Winkerman, Ronald B. Wall, Morris Wudo. If I have mispronounced any of the name, or you would like to add a name to our yahrzeit at this time, or someone you have laid to rest in the last 7 days or 30 days, I invite you to do so now at this time. If you have buried someone in the last 7 days and in our period of Shiva, I invite you to please rise if you are able. If you have laid to rest someone in the last 30 days and are in a period of Shloshim, I invite you to please rise. If you're marking a yahrzeit at this time, I invite you to please rise. And as a caring community, we all rise together. And if you have a siddur, please join me for the Kaddish on page 294. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם ועלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלל שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלם הרבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. May their memories be for a blessing in our hearts, and may we all say amen. You may be seated. At this time, I'd like to give a very warm thank you to Virginia Crabtree, to Steve Gordon, to Dr. Marshall Griffith, Josh Sebo, and Scott Spiro. Thank you so much for joining us for this service. It's so wonderful to have you here. And of course, we can't wait for you all to be here as well. At this time, we continue with our closing song on page 321, Adon Olam. Please join us. For the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shalat kol shom b'ahava u'v'ratzon. Zikaron lemase v'reishit ki hu yom tihila lemivrai kodesh zeicher tziat mitzrayim ki valu v'charta yodanu kidashta Baruch atah Adonai Mekadosh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. You made a face. Not good?
It's delicious.
Okay. I wonder what you got.
Please join us for the blessing over our bounty.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Amen.
May we have the strength to face our truths and to create the society where we never have to go into hiding again, or any minority group for that matter. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos.